Recently, President Zardari has accepted that Pakistan has created and nurtured militant and extremist groups for short-term goals. The LAT and Jaish fall into that category, don't they?
You see, I mean, when we are talking of all these organizations, we have to go back about 20 years. We have to go back to 1989. We have to see what was happening in Kashmir and what happened in the decade of 90s. In the decade of 90s, the freedom struggle in Kashmir started, and there were independent organizations in Pakistan who were fully supportive, who had sympathy, and they were fully supportive. That is how all these organizations came into being, and they had public sympathy certainly in Pakistan. So now, since the situation changed, and since we started a dialogue, as far as I know, we started a dialogue for the political settlement of the Kashmir dispute and all other disputes between India and Pakistan. Now, we had to see what are all these independent groups doing, these independent mercenary groups doing. So there was a shift, certainly a shift in attitudes, and that is how we are here, whatever we are. But those same organizations that you are talking of gained strength all along the decade of 90s.
But is there a possibility that today, when the shift has taken place and these organizations are being reined in and are being checked, that some elements of the establishment may continue to regard them as assets? And is that one reason why people like Hafiz Saeed or Zarar Khan or Lakhvi are not being prosecuted as India wants?
Well, I wouldn't say that official patronage will be given to that. If there are some individuals who have sympathy with them on what they did, there are many people who are against this policy of political dialogue. They are for carrying on Mujahideen activity, etc. There are elements who are sympathetic towards that view.
And they may therefore be more sympathetic of Hafiz Saeed than people like Lakhvi and Zarar Shah.
Yes, but then that doesn't mean that there is official government patronage or ISI or army patronage.
But it does mean that there are elements who are perhaps rogue elements or not fully in agreement with government policy who are sympathizing.
Well, if these elements are there and they are in service in the army or ISI, certainly they will be sorted out, because that goes against the government policy, and I am sure that is against the army and ISI policy. There has to be unity in that policy, and a standard policy is being followed. If there is any element which is violating that policy, has to be punished and dealt with.
Let me put to you what Indian authorities say. They say that weeks after you stepped down as army chief in November 2007, the peace along the LOC, which had prevailed from 2004, began to unravel. And very quickly, by May 2008, a situation had been reached where there were incidents every other day, culminating in the attack on the Indian embassy in Afghanistan. Isn't this because the sort of people you had kept in check when you were army chief, when you stepped aside, got a freer hand?
Certainly there was a policy that we had formulated, and that policy we were following strictly, and I at least used to make sure that everyone down the ladder, all government organs, must follow that policy in letter and spirit.
And is there a possibility that after you stepped down, others, I won't name them, but others didn't keep such a control and such a firm check, which is why activity that you clearly considered unacceptable began to slowly resume?
Well, I would say that I had one advantage. I always believed that if you ought to have unity of command, if at all you want to effectively control and check such incidents or such activities. Now, unity of command I had, because I was the army commander also and the president.
That ceased to be the case when you stopped being army commander.
Well, but since I was an army man, I had much greater association and control and understanding with the army.
Which is why there was greater control on this sort of terrorist activity when you were there, and there is less now.
Well, I was sure that they were following whatever I was telling them.